Welcome, everyone, to episode 152 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name is Kevin. I'm here with Owen. No Douglas this week. We're talking about Send Help, the new Sam Raimi movie. But first, as always, we're going to talk about what we watched this past week.
Yeah.
Maybe not a fun start to the episode. I feel like as we have done in the past, we probably have to start with the bad news of the week. It feels weird saying bad news of the week
Oh,
because we're talking about
right.
Hollywood, and there's like, yeah, you see like bad Hollywood news, and then you see like the actual news, and you're just like, Jesus Christ.
Right.
Uh, but for the purposes of our podcast, at least, Catherine O'Hara passed away
Yeah.
this weekend, which yeah, really really upset me. I'm not like somebody who has seen every Catherine O'Hara movie or like I'm super like some super big fan, but she's just such a kind of like cornerstone of
Mm.
my life, I guess, and it feels
Yeah.
strange, especially I guess recently because I've talked a lot on the podcast about how I'm not a TV person, but she's just like been around lately, like I've just been seeing her face everywhere, and so it feels
Mhm.
like super strange. I mean, last year we did a podcast on The Last of Us. She was on that show. She's on The
Oh, I didn't know
Studio,
that.
and they're in the middle of filming season 2 of The Studio. And so
Right.
like she's just been everywhere recently for me. And then of course she's
Beetlejuice was just
true.
just came
Beetlejuice,
out,
Beetlejuice.
and she's
Yeah.
lovely in that.
Yeah, she's terrific. And then of course she was like, I don't know, just everywhere for me as a kid as well. So really she's just been everywhere my whole life. I tweeted as
Yeah.
much, but I mentioned like a brief kind of story that as much as I could fit into Twitter characters, but um when I was like not even when I was a kid, literally still now, I my parents are like very annoying about Home Alone. Like my mom loves to bring up Home Alone because the main
'Cause
character's
you're
name is
'cause
Kevin. And so
Kevin,
yes, and so she
it's
like
literally you.
ever since I was like a little boy, like ever since I was like
Mm.
5, she would like joke that the kid in the movie is like me, and she it's just like a thing that
Right.
she does. And like now it kind of feels like an annoying thing. But because of it, I've watched that movie 100 times, right? So it's like
Right.
I've probably seen Catherine O'Hara on my screen more than almost any actor in existence,
Mhm.
And so that, yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking about that, and yeah, it's just really sad, and unexpected, and
Yeah, definitely, like, out of
it's
nowhere.
tough. I don't
Just
know if you want to add anything before we get to our normal podcast stuff, but
Not too much. I mean, I just it was just so shocking. I mean, I
yeah,
remember, uh, reading that news and just kind of it being so out of left field, as just like, someone who's just been working, like you said, like, so consistently, for such a long time. I think she was 71.
yeah,
So, I mean, older, but not like not someone who was like, "Oh, this person's gonna," at the I don't know. She still had a lot left, it felt like, which is always sad. But,
yeah. And I think they have since, like, mentioned that it was a brief illness that she got, because that was kind of my, like I
yeah.
think the shock just came from, like, it's not like there were any, like, signs of any, like, it's not like she was
Right,
unhealthy,
right.
like you said, she was working, and it was just, like, a thing that happened,
Yeah, because there's a ton of actors who are alive, but just not working or haven't worked in so long because of health reasons, and,
yeah,
um,
but this was more of a real
yeah.
surprise. I mean, just kind of like, ruined the whole weekend,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's tough. I'm sure everybody listening feels exactly the same. I think she was a pretty beloved actress. We're all gonna miss her, but we could talk about what we watched and then shift gears to Send Help. I know you had a bit of a busy weekend yourself, so I don't know how many movies you've been
Right,
watching,
right.
but feel free to take it away.
Yeah, I watched Red Eye,
Oh
um,
yeah,
the
well,
Wes
Killian Murphy
Craven.
action and
Sure,
the
right,
star of her.
right, but,
Um,
it in kind of, uh,
yeah,
relation to
more
the
importantly, Rachel
motion
McAdams.
picture
Right.
that we are, talking about on this podcast, um, but Mr. Murphy is lovely as well, of course,
Yeah, as he always
Um,
is.
but I watched, this, as in in timing, it was important to check this out, especially, because of Send Help coming out, as this is, you know, been talked about a lot online recently as a kind of almost a double feature. Like these are perfect movies to put in, like little like box, 2 for 1 sort of like Walmart
Right.
grab bin sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
you know, Rachel McAdams plain horror movies sort of
Right.
thing.
A little bit of different
Um,
energy to the 2 of them, though, I think. They're
for
like not
sure, for sure, for
no.
sure. It's solid. Wes Craven, incredible filmmaker. You know, it's, not his best, but not his worst for sure. Great
No.
performances.
He really lets
Um,
loose towards the end there, I think. It's like,
just yeah.
you
I
know.
don't know, it's a fun, like it's a really good it's a solid premise, and how lets the, you know, 2 actor kind of have fun, and Brian Cox is, you know, on the phone.
Right. Yeah.
But enjoyed that. You know, Rachel McAdams is amazing. Um, then I watched Treasure Island from 1986. Um, this movie is really interesting. Um, I was thinking a lot about well, there I don't know if you've seen this, Kevin, but I posted this on Twitter. I reposted this sort of, and it's a clip from the Lav Diaz letterboxed video where he's talking about like sleeping and being a part of like I'm gonna butcher like the his phrasing on it, but I recommend checking that his letterbox like video out. I also reposted on Twitter, but him just talking about how like there's such like sleeping is such a big part of you know cinema, and I mean I know you and many of people watching this have fallen asleep during a movie or like kind of been like nodding off during a film or something like that.
Yeah.
And like certain films like it kind of enhances the experience of, like, kind of being in and out of it in a very, like, dream state, and kind of just a very bizarre way of viewing this, and this film is very much like a dreamy movie. Um, I don't even know where to start to explain it. Obviously, Treasure Island is, like, a very famous, you know, kids, like, pirate book. This movie is a very interesting adaptation because, like, you have, like, characters who are like, "I'm you know, I'm the captain, and I'm Silver, and you're Jim Hawkins," and, you know, there's these character, like, roles, from Treasure Island, but Treasure Island, the book, like, exists in the movie, and they're all, like, playing the characters, um and like so like the reality and fiction are being blended and it's a very interesting movie um and like there's like you know this like English dubbing going on and with of like Anna Karenina and like you know it's very I don't know the kind of craziest vibes ever um beautiful movie really gorgeous. I don't know. It's just something. It's like kind of. It feels very much like a dream. That I I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was really so curious. Um, just I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. I would recommend
Right.
that like vague kind of description sounds interesting checking it out. Because it's super hard to explain. It just feels like nothing else. It just feels very singular in the way that like it like kind of interacts with like the source material. Um, and then I watched Todd Haynes' Safe
Yeah, I'm
with
dying to
Julianne
see this.
Moore. It is so good.
Yeah.
It's so I mean, Julianne Moore is like the best, one of my favorite actresses like ever. And this movie is, I don't know, it's the Julianne Moore's character, um, like comes, she starts getting sick and she doesn't know what what is the problem. No one knows what the problem is. And that's kind of the basis of the movie. And it's just like, I don't know, the energy is very intense. And a lot of it is like the way that she's photographed alongside the spaces that she's in really like kind of pushes that intensity. Um, there's this scene towards the end that like isn't real, it's not like a spoiler nor per se, but like she's just like she's like giving like kind of a speech and she sort of just rambles. And then she's like, "Oh, I guess I'm like done now." Like she just stops talking, and then everyone is like, "Okay." There's just it's very like I don't know. There's the tone is so, but I just keep thinking about that moment where like they're like speech, 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 and then she kind of just talks, and she doesn't really know what she's like to say, and she just kind of says a bunch of like buzzwords and whatever. I think the movie is very like it aged super well. I mean, it's definitely talking about a lot of stuff that, has been, um, prevalent for many years, but I think, it still, touches on I mean, it's even there's some, like, newer age stuff that I feel like it taps into, because there's, like, a whole, like, I don't know if society is the best place to put it, but, like, there's, like, a community of people who all have, like they're like, I'm sick, but no one knows what the thing is." And there's, like, kinda these, like, people sort of leading them, and I don't know, it's there's the vibes are off the charts. Julianne Moore is, like, a milkaholic.
Yeah, I've heard about this part,
She's
yeah.
which is,
It's
very
definitely it definitely feels I mean, at least the way I've heard it spoken about is it's definitely like a you don't wanna know too much about it before
right,
going
and,
in
like,
kinda
I don't
thing.
even
You wanna just
it's
like
yeah, yeah, I would just say that too, like, it just go into it and kind of it's just very the atmosphere and the kind of tone really grips you in this kind of way, that yeah, I think Julianne and Todd are incredible, so that's really a great film, and then I watched Ella McKay because Ella
oh, yeah.
McKay is now on streaming, and I'm really upset that I wasn't able to check this out before we did our, like, year wrap up
Yeah, I
because
know.
maybe it would I would probably I don't think it got a lot of love on that, wrap up, and I think I would've tossed it some
I think it was
awards.
mentioned in a couple categories.
I think I would've tossed it some awards. I think Ella McKay
Yeah,
is so lovely. I love it's just so earnest and happy, and there's this, like, one review, like, one of the top reviews is, like, a negative review where it's, like, 50% of all scenes end with characters earnestly saying "I love you" to each other, and I'm
yeah,
like, "Dude, like, everyone
word.
needs to be saying that they love each other more. Like,
I agree.
we need to start
I
loving each
agree.
other more." And I
Yeah,
I think Emma Mackey is
so good.
unreal. She's
Yeah,
unreal,
she's
and,
awesome.
like, I really haven't seen her in, like, anything, um
Yeah, maybe you should finally watch, some TV. Maybe you should watch Sex Education. Listen,
no, can't.
she's so good in that show.
I'm sure there's a bunch of actors and actresses that come like that. It seems to be a good farm program
Yeah.
for the big leagues, but,
You mean Sex
uh,
Education or just, like, TV in general?
sex education.
Okay,
There
yeah.
there's a lot of people coming from that show that's like, "Hey, maybe, like" no, I've had, like, that thought for maybe a second, Kevin, I was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, a lot of people
There's
that
just
seem
a lot of, like
there's a lot
there's
of
just a
cool
lot of
people that seem to be
people.
in that movie or that show," and I'm like, "I can't do it."
Sure. There's a lot of people who I'm seeing in TV, and I'm just like, "I can't wait," you know? Like, there's, like,
Yeah,
people who
yeah.
I'm watching certain TV shows. I'll mention a TV show in a second, actually, that I'm watching,
Right,
and I'm just like, "I can't wait to see this guy," and stuff. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm always getting, uh, on the train early when a certain
right.
show actually,
Um,
gets me, pulls me in.
yeah,
But she's great, yeah, Ella McKay is also great, I agree.
and Mikey, the whole cast, I think Kumail Nanjiani, I think, like, he kinda
He's
rocks, like,
awesome, yeah.
I've liked him, like, I mean, I remember, like, The Big Sick was, like when that came out, that was, like, a good movie. Like,
I liked that movie a
that was a good
lot.
movie, but,
I saw a
like
clip of him doing stand-up the other day. I saw, like, one of his stand-up, bits popped up on my
yeah.
TikTok, and I was like, "Man, I love this guy."
Yeah, I
Like,
don't
this
know, and,
guy's
like, I
awesome.
mean, he had that whole, like, Marvel arc where he got, like, ripped and, like, those movies didn't, like, happen,
Yeah,
um, but I think he's, like I don't know, I think he's interesting, and has, like, obviously, like, he's there's not another him in the industry, and I enjoyed him, and I think that's, like, a big thing with Ella McKay in general, is I think a lot of these performers have, like, such a specific energy, um, and voice and kind of vibe, and they kind of really pop off the screen, um, in a really lovely way. It's just such a beautiful movie, and I was kinda, like, beaming the whole time, but then, like, I don't know, the movie makes you feel a lot of things. There's this, like I mean, you've seen it, but the scene with, Spike Fern and Iowa Debris is, like,
yeah, Doug
kind
and
of
I this is what Doug
insane.
and I were talking
No, I
about.
know, that scene is insane.
Yeah.
That scene's so crazy. Uh,
Yeah, it's kinda like the best scene in any movie all year, to be
it's like,
honest.
oh my god. Um, yeah, I don't that shit's crazy. Really lovely movie, Ella McKay. Um, and then I watched, another 2025 release. I watched Peter Hujar's Day,
Right.
which they just slapped on the Criterion Channel one night. They were
Yeah.
like, "8 p.m., it's coming,"
I think it's
and I
been on
was
movie for a bit also, but I could be wrong about that.
and this movie the Ira Sachs movie. This movie is really good.
Yeah.
Talking about Ben
Would this
Whishaw,
have affected your end of year podcast as well?
I think maybe.
Snuck into some
I don't
categories?
know. I think I definitely worth. Yeah, it might have been in my top 10. I think.
Whoa,
Uh,
really?
yeah.
Would you say
And
that Ella McKay is, like, definitely in your top 10 or
no, as of right now, the way that I adjusted my list for whatever reason, like, what does it matter? I put El McKay at 13 and
okay.
this at 9.
Whoa, okay. I didn't realize you
Um,
liked it this much. I feel like, I guess I assumed you liked Ella McKay more, but this is a real
I mean, that
sure,
it's a
it's like
stat,
all of it
like,
is, like, relative and, like,
that is like a
whatever, but
super
in my
9 through 13, 9 through 20, basically. I don't even know. It's like,
yeah,
dude, it's so crazy. I've talked about Peter Wishaw, Ben Wishaw, um, frequently, I think recently. I mean, kind of a insane performance.
yeah,
Really lovely. Rebecca Hall, who's also in Ella McKay, is in this movie.
yeah,
And it's just them. It's just them. She's interviewing Ben Wishaw, who's playing Peter Hujar. Um, and it's a 76-minute movie that takes place in, this kind of apartment. Um, and they're like, there's different uh areas and locations, but it's very small, kind of basically for all intents and purposes, like one location movie where they just kind of talk about his day. Um and it's like kind of insane. It's really, really beautiful. There's like the first shot of the movie, like it opens and it's like the slate,
Yeah.
and it's like whoa, whoa. It's very like I don't know the way that it kind of because it kind of presents itself and it is kind of like okay, we're just gonna sit down, we're gonna talk. Which that stuff is really great, but there's this kind of way that it um gets into these kind of like metaphysical, like other, I don't know, the way that it kind of operates in this kind of filmic otherness and kind of fourth wall breaking, or just kind of like taking time to obviously like it's a portrait of like a photographer talking and this artist, and the way that it kind of embraces that and kind of goes, it's just such a beautiful movie. um that I would definitely recommend checking out. That also feels like a movie that you could watch like 100 times. Like it's so like it's 76 minutes of just like this like atmosphere of just I'm really interested in these kind of like uh these like kind of really like New York like apartment like but it's like a kind of, it's not a, obviously it's not modern, it's like I think 64 um 74 which is but then yeah, I don't know, there's like, and then this kind of, there's a atmosphere and vibe to this, and it's so quiet, but also like there's some major stuff I feel like going on in it. Really beautiful and lovely. Ben Whishaw. I feel like I feel like he could have like, this feels like a movie that like, I know it's a crazy year for Oscar stuff, but like I don't know. I feel like this totally could have been like a performance that would be worthy for some award contention. The
Yeah.
movie just kind of wasn't like pushed out like that.
Yeah. It'd be a
But
tough year to compete.
that's what I'm saying. Like I'm saying, like if it was a different year, I could totally see this. Like,
Being an Oscar nominee.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's a kind of, maybe the movie's a little too
Yeah,
weird.
they would have the campaigning might have been tricky
But
too
that's what
on
I'm saying. It's just such a
people.
small movie,
Yeah.
right? But Ben Whishaw, I think, is
He's a
incredible.
very good actor. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I again, this is another one. This feels like a movie you could just same thing with Treasure Island. This feels like a movie you could just put on, you kind of like knock out here and there, and like kind of phase back into it, and then like be like, whoa, what is
Right.
going on? And I don't know. I think that is something beautiful in that. And then like you said, like my week's been kind of weird. I was in New York and I was like, what are they playing? And
Yeah.
they were playing something, all right. They were playing something, and there was like a basically sold out showing, first showing of The Moment,
Yes.
the Charlie XCX movie, The Moment.
Right.
Um, and I know people who like, a lot of people actually like, I think I'm like,
In the
everyone's liking this
minority.
more than me. Everyone's like this one. Oh, I don't think this movie's bad. I'm just like, I gave it 2 stars, and that kind of was me being like, I watched the movie and everything was like okay. Everything was like fine. But I never was like really into it or ever really like loving it. I know like the critic Robert Daniels really liked it.
Yeah, it seems like pretty much everybody I follow who's like, gotten to see it already is a big fan.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like wasn't like totally blown away or like in love with it. Um, but it's funny. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I was explaining this uh like a couple days ago, because it's not like it's not a concert film, but it's a like fake, but it mixes and blends reality with fiction, and it's about like they're gonna do a concert film.
Mockumentary.
Yeah. It kind of has that like TV mockumentary vibe going on, especially with like the way that the camera is going, but it's also Sean Price Williams, right? Sean Price Williams, who was pretty talented. Um, so like there's some good images, there's some interesting stuff going on there, a lot of flickering, a lot of like that kind of stuff going on. Um, but it's okay. I don't know. That wasn't I don't have too much on that. I was like, this is fine.
Yeah.
I think the album's really good. The movie's okay.
The album's good, yeah. I haven't seen the movie yet. I watched her, take a lie detector test on Vanity Fair, and, I think
Okay.
it was the director of the movie asking her
Oh,
questions,
really?
on the lie detector test, and I was like, "The vibe seemed good. It seems like they got a good vibe." I feel like they probably
Yeah,
had fun
he's done
making the
some of
movie.
her music videos and stuff
Yeah, I
before.
know. He's, like,
This is his,
mostly a
like,
music video director.
directorial debut.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, no, I'm sure the movie's fun. I don't know. I really don't know, like, unless it's the off chance that we somehow bring it up on the podcast, but otherwise, I don't really know exactly when I'm gonna watch the movie. I'm not, like, the most
yeah.
interested in it, despite the fact that I do really like all of her music, but,
Yeah.
yeah, it just doesn't seem good for me,
It's
but
fine. I
maybe
think
I'll like it.
her performance is I mean, she's obviously playing herself. She does a pretty good
Sure.
job of playing herself.
Yeah.
It's, it's whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll check it out. I That's the last thing you watched, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have a super busy week, but, well, I had a busy week, but busy movie watching week. But I managed to do a little bit. I'm in one of my grad school classes. Or technically it's not a grad school class, but whatever. Not important. In one of my classes, I have to write a paper about a movie,
Mm.
and so I kind of like sent a list of options to my professor, and I was like, "Here's all these movies I would be interested in writing about. Let me know what you think is best." And he emailed me back and he was like, "Parasite's one of my 5 favorite movies ever. That's the kind of movie you
Oh.
should write a paper about." And I was like,
Right. You shouldn't even I
I
can't believe you put it on there. You should just kinda like
well, I was like, I don't know. I just like I wanted to have I wanted when I was making the list, I was like, I wanted there to be some options that are like movies that I for sure would know he has seen, because I
sure,
didn't want to just like send him a list of movies that he's not familiar with, because the whole point of the paper is for him to know the content. He's not going to approve stuff that he doesn't know.
sure.
So I was like, I'll put a couple movies in there that I really like, but that are like movies that he probably has seen. I know, like I did a little bit of digging, and I know he like teaches a class about Stranger Things. I'm pretty sure. So I'm like, okay, I don't.
What the
Um, but no, but he seems like a very nice professor. He's been very nice to me so far. It's like an
Stranger Things.
online class, so I don't really have like a face to face grasp of him or anything, but we just talk via like email and stuff.
Oh, it's not
But
even
anyway,
like Zoom.
no, it's just
It's not
like a
even
completely online class. Yeah, it's like an
yeah.
async class. But anyway, so he told me to do Parasite, and in my head, I was like, oh, that was like the most boring option on the list. And then I rewatched Parasite because I had I had to before writing the paper,
Right.
and I'm rewatching the movie, and like pretty early into the movie, I was just like, man, I love this movie. It's one of those things, because I explained it in my letterbox review, but it's one of those movies, and there's not too many cases of this, but it's like you can almost get complacent because of the reputation that the movie has, where it's like I saw the movie, X amount of times between 2019 and like 2021, like when the movie won its Oscar and
Mhm,
all that
mhm.
stuff. And I watched it like over and over. And then now it's been, 5 years since I've seen the movie last. And I was just
Wow,
like, you
wow.
forget a lot in 5 years, and I'm like, and it's one of
A
those things where it's
lot
like, yeah,
can happen in
but you know what
5
I mean?
years.
Like you'll be in conversations with people and like someone brings up Parasite and you're like, oh yeah, and Parasite. Like people are talking about movies and you're like, oh yeah, and then by the way, there's Parasite. And it's like, and you know what? It has such a reputation that it became such a classic so fast that I don't actually like over the last 5 years, I haven't thought about like, oh, let me sit down and watch Parasite, because I'm like, I just don't
Uh,
need to do that.
5
Um,
years.
and then, and then I rewatch it and I'm just like, yeah, this is just one of my favorite movies. I really
Yeah,
like it. So it was nice to just like revisit it. That was what I said in my letterbox review. I was like, reminder, if for some reason you haven't seen it in however many years, it's not a bad movie to return to. It holds up. Then I watched Capote, which is Philip
mm,
Seymour Hoffman starring movie where he plays Truman Capote.
mhm.
Uh, specifically, it's not even like about Truman Capote's whole life. It's just about the process of him making In Cold Blood, which is, for anybody listening who's familiar with him, his most famous novel. Um, Fascinating story. I've been wanting to read the book for a while and I haven't yet, but watching the movie, I was just like, oh, I have made a mistake by not having this at like the top of my reading list. Like
Oh, okay, yeah.
in my head, I was just kind of like, oh, like I would like to read that book sometime. And I kind of like knew vaguely like what it was about. Like I knew it was like a true crime thing. I knew it was like, like I knew some of like what's behind it, but then actually watching the true story. And obviously there's some like Hollywoodification of the story, but for the most part, understanding the process of how the book got made, I was just like, oh, this is way too fascinating to me. Like I need to read this book
Yeah,
immediately. Because Truman Capote just seems like such a singular person in history, like not even just an author, but just like a person who existed. It's just like, and again, who knows how much of that stuff is like Hollywoodified, but for the most part, it seems like his personality is captured in the movie, and that is, his obsession with this case is like it's like fascinating. Like I could very easily see myself like getting caught in a similar web. You know what I mean? Maybe not in the same way that he did because
right.
he had like a strange, fixation on one of the murderers, but I could very easily see like if if it was my assignment to like investigate some very big criminal case, like some very big string of murders, and I was like writing a book about it, and like I got to actually speak to the people who did the killing and like speak to the members of the community and all this stuff the way that he did, I would just get like way in over my head. You know what I mean? Like I would just like get
Right.
lost in that whole world. It would be so fascinating. And so knowing that that actually like happened to someone and they wrote a book about it and it is
Mhm.
like, one of the great American novels ever written is like pretty wild. The movie itself, I'm talking a lot about like the process and not the
Yeah.
movie. The movie itself is like just a fine movie. You know what? I like when like a biopic is like actually good. Like and it's like there's very few. I've seen very few great biopics, like favorite movie ever kind of biopics.
Yeah.
But I love when it's just like a good biopic. Like if the story's interesting, you know what I mean? Like I watched the movie and I was like, I can't wait to read the book. That doesn't
Mhm.
happen. Like some more often than not, I'm watching a biopic and I'm like, I don't really, I forget
Right,
about
right.
I'm like, okay, yeah, learned a couple things and like move on. But this one actually like got my attention, so I'd recommend it. It's fun. I rewatched The Red Balloon, which is like the short film.
Mhm, mhm.
Everybody listening is probably familiar. Just an
Just,
awesome
like,
little
out of the
movie.
blue? Just, like
No, I was like prompted a little bit. I'm having to for listeners of the pod who aren't aware, I'm in grad school for teaching, so I'm supposed to be a teacher, and uh, I have to do some like lesson planning. And I
right.
was like, for my one lesson plan, I was like, what would be a fun like thing to do for a lesson plan? I was like, oh, maybe I'll do a lesson plan on a short film. And so I was like, kind of bouncing around. I was like looking through all the short films I've seen. I'm like, oh, what's one that I would really want to teach that like would make sense for like an English class? And so I was like, let me rewatch The Red Balloon and see if that would be a fun one. And it's weird because it's like one of those movies where it's like I could show this movie to like 7-year-olds, but I could also show it to like high schoolers,
Mhm.
And so I would hope that if I was showing it to my high school classroom, it would be like something that catches their attention. But who knows at this point with modern day high schoolers.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was like, it's just a blast, and then I think possibly I'll do like a little lesson plan on it. It could be a fun movie to teach. It's very like it's very easy to like translate into an academic thing, especially like thinking about a high school English class. It's like the symbolism is like very obvious. It's
Right,
like it's
right,
very,
right.
you could really like teach it to a high school class and have it
Yes.
work.
Yeah.
But it's also just a great movie. It's like, you know,
Mhm.
one of my favorite short films that I've ever seen. So, um, watch Send Help, of course, which we'll talk about in a second. And then the only other like thing that I did was a rewatch of Sentimental Value, which is like my third watch of it now. Um, Still my favorite movie of the past year. We'll see if maybe that changes on my rewatch of The Secret Agent, which should be imminent this week. But that's really the only like movie that I could see kind of like sneaking up into that conversation, or maybe if I watch one battle after another again, I don't know. But I really love sentimental value. It's just like so meaningful to
Mhm.
me. And I'm going to catch up on some Oscar movies or whatever. We'll see. But it really feels like sentimental value is just the movie from this past year that's going to stick with me for however many years to come. Uh, anyway, let's talk about Send Help. And I guess let's start uh, with Sam Raimi, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you could probably put this in better context than me. Some people would refer to it as like a return, I think for multiple reasons. For on the one end, just like a return to like horror, I guess. But on
Mhm.
the other end, just like a return to making good movies potentially. I have not seen a Sam Raimi movie by like if we're looking at like release date, the last Sam Raimi movie that I had watched pre Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness,
Okay,
because
okay.
I think we all watched that. But
Yes.
I haven't seen anything between Multiverse of Madness and Spider-Man 3. So
Okay,
I have not seen Drag Me to Hell or his Oz movie.
okay.
And I think, have you seen both of those?
Yes.
Okay. So you have a little bit more context. How would
Um,
you put in perspective this
right.
movie as like a return to
Yeah,
form for
so,
me?
um, obviously, Sam Raimi started with Evil Dead at, like, 21 years old. That was in 1981, and then Evil
Yeah.
Dead 2, um, of course, that trilogy with Army of Darkness. There's
Yeah.
a couple movies alongside there that I
Yeah.
still have to check out. That
Yeah, I'd like
period.
to watch a couple of them.
I actually
Less popular,
After watching Sent Help, I was just like, "What am I like? I just gotta watch all of these. Like, I gotta
right?
toughen up a little bit. I gotta be a man here and whatever that means." But just like watch all these movies. Like, I love Sam Raimi so much. The fact that I have just kind of not completed his um, you know, filmography is something that I don't know why. Because I think to me, like the Evil Dead trilogy and the Spider-Man trilogy are like two like perfect trilogies or two at least of the best trilogy like in terms of like some yeah, but then it's like okay, those are like that's like half his movies. It's like he's got like two
Yeah.
amazing trilogies that I love all six of those movies, but then there's only like so many other ones, and there's a couple I haven't seen, but yeah, like so Evil Dead trilogy, some movies, Spider-Man trilogy, then like Drag Me to Hell happens, and that's a 2009, um, and kind of like whatever critically, sort of, it's become a cult movie though. Like it's
Yeah.
everyone likes Drag Me to Hell now, but I'm not sure. I feel like it didn't do too well when it came out, and then Oz the Great and Powerful, which is his like Wizard of Oz movie. He started doing like it's a studio thing. It's there's I remember seeing this
Right.
movie in theaters in 2013. I had fun with it then. It's not a movie that I revisited or that like had too much of an impact on me. There's
Right.
movies that like I saw at that time that have stuck with me more that are probably not great either, but this movie is okay, probably. But then that movie came out in 2013. You're talking about Multiverse of Madness as 2022. And prior to Multiverse of Madness, it was like, oh, this guy's the vibes were low. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
real. Yeah, the
Yeah.
vibes were low among Sam Raimi fans as he kind of shifted to a more producer role. His producer credits uh, around that time were a lot like more with the Evil Dead 2013 happening and other Fede Alvarez movie Don't Breathe that he also produced.
Yeah.
More recently, like post Multiverse of Madness, with the 65.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Um, the Crawl he produced.
Yeah, there's some random ones in here. Yeah,
right?
one of the Grudge
But,
movies, like
like, just
remake.
producing horror movies, chilling out, but would Sam Raimi ever direct again? And then Multiverse of Madness happens, and that movie's, like, fine. There's some, like, cool shit in it, but clearly, like, when you're talking about Multiverse of Madness and Oz Great and Powerful, it's like there's Sam Raimi stuff in there, but it's a big studio movie that he does not have, like, all this control in, and it's like, are we ever gonna see Sam Raimi ever again? And then the Send Help announcement was, like, the biggest thing on Twitter because it was like, "Oh, shit," like, not only is, like, it's a Sam Raimi original movie, but it's a Sam Raimi original horror movie, which hasn't been done since 2009, um, and it was big news, but also it was like, can you do that in 2025, 2026? Like, can you make a Sam Raimi movie? Can Sam Raimi make a Sam Raimi movie? Um, but yeah, so that's I mean, that's like the general gist of it.
Yeah, that's the
I also
context.
think too, like Sam Raimi, I don't know, he's just got an interesting existence in like the filmmaking world because he's been around for a long time, but never it feels never he feels like everything he's done has always felt like it's been appreciated like more as time has gone on. Like obviously Spider-Man was big when it came out. Obviously Evil Dead was like a hit. Like if it wasn't a hit, like he wouldn't have kept going and make movies. But I feel like the people who grew up with those movies were never or like people who love those movies were never the people in charge, right? Like Evil Dead when that came out was like super big with like younger people. Like that was like I mean, of course, like a big horror movie, it's gonna be the younger audience. Spider-Man, it's a superhero thing, but it's also like that's pre like the superhero boom, really. Like those were like really. I mean, it
Yeah,
was booming, but like it wasn't like he was making Black Panther and it was up for
right.
Oscars and like like it wasn't like that
It was
kind of
pre the
peak
MCU.
thing, right? Um, and then like he just kind of fizzled out, and obviously like people like it. I don't know. He has a kind of a nerdy fan base quality to it, where it's like horror movies and super heroes and stuff like that. Where it's I don't
Yeah.
know. I just don't think he ever was respected as a filmmaker. Um, in the way that I think he should have been, where his career is bizarre. Where I'm like, this guy has like two amazing trilogies, and he's kind of like just disappeared. And there's probably a billion other reasons for that. I just always felt like his career was interesting and maybe not gotten exactly what he maybe deserved to get. But I'm really excited. We'll get more to Send Help after kind of giving that. But like I am really excited for the future and the rest of Sam Raimi's career because he is 66 years old and like I think he still has a lot left in the tank. And I hopefully I think Send Help is doing ridiculously well. Like critically and like I would I just I'm not I know like I drafted it on our movie thing, but I like kind of waited because I was like I could totally see this movie like I liking it and people liking it on like Twitter, but like critically like it being trashed. I totally could have saw that happening. And what is it? It's like fresh, Rotten Tomato, fresh. What is
Yeah, I mean,
it?
it's got let's see. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 93%,
Yeah, ridiculous.
3.5 on Letterboxd. It had a B plus cinema score, so audiences liked it a good
Yeah.
amount. And yeah, it was the number one movie of the weekend.
Oh,
There was some speculation there for a second that maybe the new Markiplier movie
right,
would be
right,
number
right.
one, and it ended up pretty close. But Send Help did end up topping the box office this weekend.
But
Melania
I don't
in
know.
third
This is like
place,
it
which
feels
is
like the best case scenario for how this movie could have performed.
yes.
Like I just like never expected
I
this,
yeah.
which is so exciting
I
because
think
if he wants to make more horror movies like this, like he totally can, which is so exciting.
yeah. I think for like end of January, beginning of February horror movie in terms of like just mass market appeal. It's like it did what it did what it was supposed to do. Like it did what it came here to do, and then on top of that, it's also like this great critical
Yeah,
hit,
it's
and
so
audiences are just like
awesome.
really enjoying it because it's like it would have just made this money regardless. But for audiences to actually like really be having a good time with it is yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I don't know,
more than we
and
could
maybe I
expect,
don't
I
know.
guess.
I've not been around since the '80s, so maybe there's partially like this a little talking on my ass, but like I don't know. I feel like everyone's finally like ready to like be like, let's go, Sam Raimi. Like we love you. We're cheering you on, and I think it's great. I don't know. I feel like he's had his success over the years, but like I'm really excited to see like this Twilight era, the late style Raimi, where like everyone's like, we love Raimi and like go be crazy, guy, because we like when you're crazy.
Yeah.
Because
It's
I
exciting.
don't know.
I hope that we get at least a good amount of
Because he seems like he wants to like he's like, I'll do if you want to call me to do Batman, I'll do Batman. Like he seems like he's so game and he's so like,
yeah.
I love blood. You know what I mean? I'll tell you how to make movie blood. Like, I don't know. He's like the coolest
Yeah.
guy, and
No, there's
he
definitely
seems
a
like
lot left in the
he
tank.
loves doing it. And I'm just happy for him that this movie was such a success.
Yeah. I think I think that's a good takeaway. I think it's true that we're all kind of like excited by it generally speaking. Getting into the actual movie and maybe if you want to even start there, I guess getting into
Right.
like Raimi's direction of this movie specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, I don't know, or
Yeah.
we could just start pretty broadly. I mean, I thought the movie was a blast. I was really,
It's so
you know,
fun.
I think you kind of the way that you've set up Sam Raimi is pretty accurate, but I'm not like, one of his great troopers. I'm not like
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm-hmm.
seen, as you mentioned, like both of those trilogies, and I've seen Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and I think that's kind of where the list ends for me.
You
Up
would
until
like
Ten
Drag
Help,
Me
I
to
guess.
Hell. You would
I
like
probably would love Drag Me to Hell, if we're being
it's that
honest.
movie
Um,
very like very much aligned with
yeah,
this movie. I would say more bozo. Like that
sure.
movie gets crazy.
Yeah,
Um, but like they're like you know, this that's
right.
very the wavelength he's playing
I've
in
seen like a
here.
scene or two of Drag Me to Hell, and watching those like clips from those scenes, I'm just like, yeah, this looks pretty gnarly. Like I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'd probably be very into this. But yeah, just as I was setting up, like not I'm not like Sam Raimi's not like one of my guys or anything.
Sure.
And so I don't really know like entirely what my expectations for the movie. I was always excited for this movie. Like I was like, this is probably just gonna be a movie that I really like. I watched the trailer and I was like, it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I was still kind of like in the back of my mind and what you explained, like that like realm of skepticism where it's like, who knows what this is gonna be? Like, who knows if this is gonna
Right.
be like a movie that like a couple people are like real truthers about and everybody else is just like this sucks
Right.
ass. And like it's very much not that. And I was very surprised by a lot of the uh feeling I got, like the atmosphere and watching it in
Mhm.
like it wasn't the most packed theater, I will say. I went to like an earlier-ish showing, but even just like the smaller crowd of people I was in there with were like seemingly having a pretty good
Yeah.
time. People were like some people were like doing that thing where they like talk to the screen a little bit. Like some
Mhm.
people were there was like a good amount of people laughing in the theater. I was like, okay, the vibes here are good.
Yeah.
And I definitely felt that energy kind of throughout
There
the
is
movie.
something kind of beautiful at in 2026 because I feel like there's something like Raimi kind of does touch on like I don't know, I would say maybe less of like Gen Alpha, like super young Gen Z, but maybe not. But like I feel like Gen Z and like millennials and even going a little further back because like the 80s, you have people that like I said, then the Spider-Man, but like a lot of people grew up with Spider-Man, those Spider-Man movies, and like Evil Dead is like super like that's such a like teenager, like, oh, you want to see a horror movie like thing? Like that's such a fun movie to show like a teenager. So I don't know. I think I felt this in the theater, like there are multiple generations of people who like love Sam Raimi who are like watching because I saw it on an early screening. And it was just
Right.
like
So you're
you're saying, like they're
just
talking to the
probably like
screen.
this movie.
They're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, what the fuck?" Like they're I don't know. People were like, but it was like these are people of all ages, and I thought that was really beautiful. Um, of that, like I don't know, there was it was very special, and from like Evil Dead fans, Spider Man fans to all the above. I think everyone kind of because it's very that thing. I think the movie the big thing, because Multiverse of Madness was like, okay, there's a like maybe X percent, and there's like 15% Raimi or something. It's like how much Raimi are we actually gonna get? And people saw the trailer and people were complaining, they're like, oh, I don't know. But I remember watching that trailer and I was like, the first like I don't know, 2 minutes of the trailer, 1 minute of the trailer, I was like, okay, whatever. And then there was like a switch that happens in the trailer, that first trailer. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in. Let's go. Because there was shots and there was things, and I was like, okay, there's gonna be some stuff in this movie, and there's a lot of Raimi in this movie.
Yeah.
It is very Sam Raimi, and I think that it's not perfect, but I do think like he is giving it him is all, and it's very much a Sam Raimi movie. And I think if you're watching this and you haven't seen it for whatever reason, like if you like Sam Raimi, you're gonna get a lot out of this because he's doing his thing. He is
Yeah.
doing his thing,
Yeah.
and I think that's awesome.
I wonder if that's just like a broadly like a pretty good gauge of how much a person is gonna like the movie is just like, are the Sam Raimi-isms like your thing kind of? And
Yeah,
like if they are, there's like a base level of fun that you're about to have. And if they're not, then maybe the movie's gonna disappoint you. I think that's pretty like a somewhat accurate assessment.
which is why I kind of was like almost like I don't know about like the kids, which I'm sure like I know there's definitely like young people. I
Yeah.
found that sounds like I'm really old when I say
Sure,
there's
but like
definitely like people
there's
younger than
definitely
me, like
teens
because I when
wanting to go see a horror movie that haven't
Multiverse of
seen the movie
Madness came out, there was like, what the heck are these transitions? And there's actually
yet.
not that many. Like, I don't really those transitions aren't really in this movie. But like, Sam Raimi would be doing his like thing, and they're like, this is super outdated. Like, this is weird. Like, be more like boring and bland. What are you doing in my Marvel movie? So
Yeah.
like, there are definitely people who think that way and like are down for his thing. It's not for everybody, but it is for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think people are talking about the so it opens in we're at this like fucking office building. And I will say
Yeah.
like this is the ugliest part of the movie. And I was
Yeah,
taught
pretty easily,
and
but
I and it's interesting because it's like obviously this is like a very modern like digital movie. Um and yeah, it's not great. But there are some, like, shots in that, like, section where we're, like, super close up on, like, people's
yeah.
noses and, like so
Yeah.
there's some, like, good stuff in that section, um, but I do think, like, it starts like, pla once we hit that, like, plane crash sequence, it's not really like, there's not really, like, ugly stuff in the rest. I mean, it's mostly fine, like, looks fine. I do think, like, the, um the office building is in kind of rough for at parts. I
Right.
wonder
It's
a lot like
also,
it's
what,
yeah,
10 minutes
right. That's what
max
I'm saying. Like it's
before we get
fine.
on the plane?
It's not like a
Yeah.
movie. It's not like a movie killer or anything. I did want to mention that. I'd be fascinated in the like the BCS of this movie. Like I would watch like
Yeah.
hours on hours of special effects. Recently, like I don't know if I mentioned this last week. I think maybe I just talked to someone about it in person. But like they released those like behind the scenes of After the Hunt, which is a
Oh,
movie
okay.
that like exists in reality. Like it's like, oh, we're at Yale.
Yeah.
We're just in Connecticut. And there's
Yeah.
so much blue screen and there's so much special effects to like kind of like, change where we are at. And I think like some of like a lot of the lighting is really interesting or like interesting and maybe not like a pro or con way or just like, oh, okay, maybe like it looks like that way because they are not really shooting 100% like on location. And I was thinking about like the office building, because obviously like they're not like on and like when they're shooting this movie, it's like they're not. There's definitely a lot of like green screen, blue screen, like movie magic going on. There's plane crashes and all that stuff. So I'm really interested in the special effects there. Obviously Raimi, from horror to Spider-Man, he knows, and obviously just working on a Marvel movie recently, very familiar with special effects and all that stuff. But I wonder, even especially in like the office building, when I'm thinking about After the Hunt and stuff like that, it's like things that you would think, oh, they just shoot an office building. I wonder like how much of that is like kind of special effects, and maybe if they
Yeah.
just shot on location, it would have looked better. Um,
Right.
because I think of note, and I mentioned this last week when
Mr. Pope.
talking right. Bill Pope is the cinematographer for the film, who is frequently like has frequently worked with Sam Raimi before. I think
And some other pretty big names as well.
started on Darkman, which is actually one of the ones I haven't seen. This movie is probably awesome. Liam Neeson, Frances McDormand, from 1990, but then went to work on Army of Darkness, then did the Matrix movies, and then Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, and now he's
Yeah.
back for Send Help. But interesting thing about Mr. Bill Pope is Bill Pope has been on Watch for
Yeah.
for probably like I don't know since 2019. I don't know. He did Baby Driver in 2017, Alita Battle Angel, but like he did like Ant Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Unfrosted, the Jerry Seinfeld movie, How to
Yeah,
Train
How
Your
to Train Your Dragon live
Dragon.
action. Yeah, pretty brutal. And not to mention he has, I guess, already signed on for How to Train Your Dragon too, but that's,
Right. So like the 73-year-old Bill Pope, maybe not as like the Matrix, like I'll talking about great trilogies. The Matrix trilogy, flawless movies. I love like he shot the shit out of the Matrix movies and Spider-Man movies. Those are like the best movies of that time period. He Bill Pope, incredible DP. Um,
yeah,
I don't I don't know. It's tough to I don't it's like I'm not smart enough to tell you what has happened to some of our TPs.
sure.
Obviously the way of working is very different. I also think like taste changes, and people who had really like sharp, like, oh, they knew what was good, or they not knew it was good, but like I just
They
think
had
like,
an
oh,
eye for
you
things.
have his eye, but also it's like you have an eye for what is maybe the best or most interesting right now with this technology. And then when the technology changes, maybe your taste is just not like I don't know. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Where it's like
Yeah, it's
the
like when you're in the NBA and you start to get, like, deep into your 30s and they're like, "Hey, dude, you're gonna need a jump shot because you're losing the athleticism a little bit. If you can't develop the jump shot, then you're off the team, buddy."
Right.
You know?
But yeah, I guess, but also I guess more so like the era has changed now,
Yes.
right? And it's like you gotta, So it's interesting, and I'm sure there's someone who has a better take or understanding of that. But I do think for me, I was like, oh, dude, Bill Pope, what happened to you? And I think, of course, like the cinematographer doesn't just show up and decide everything. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, oh, this is what we're doing, and no one can tell me anything else, and I'm fully in control. So like are many cases where like a cinematographer's catalog filmography looks insane. It looks like a freaking dartboard that hit everything. Um, but they're obviously they are a big part of the production, and I think he does a good job here. But also so much of it is like these very Sam Raimi ideas, but he knows how to achieve those things. He's done before. So if Sam Raimi's like, this is what we're gonna do, Bill Pope knows how to do that thing. So when we're doing those big like nose shots, or like
Yeah,
there's a
right.
lot of like really
Those close-ups.
wonderful close-ups and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and
And it gets
classic
even
Sam Raimi stuff.
yeah.
So that, I mean, he's able to achieve that. I think like the in between shots are maybe a little shaky, or just like fine. I'm not even shaky. I would just think like they're like fine. But when he's called to do these like big Sam Raimi numbers, I do think he delivers. So like I'll give like
Yeah.
B Bill Pope like a B
Okay.
on the
Well,
movie.
yeah, this is the first time we've ever done this on the pod. Is just maybe
Just
we
like
change the format of future episodes and we just kind of have a list of like the whole crew
yeah,
and
we
we're
just
like
like
we give
give
a
them
letter grade, you know? It's
this is
just
what you're teaching. We're teaching like
but
grading
to
everybody.
maybe transition perfectly into some
Some
A plus letter
right,
grades.
right, right.
I you mentioned the beginning, and I think this is aside from
Yeah,
what we're
let's
about
go
to
there.
talk about, but one thing in the beginning that I think is of note before we move on to post plane crash, which is really
Right,
the bulk of the movie,
right.
uh, is that they're set up that our main character is a big Survivor fan, and
Right, you love Survivor.
I don't love Survivor.
You
I've seen
you
a
loved
season
it.
of Survivor. I want to
Oh,
get
fuck, I
more into
forgot.
Survivor. I would love to watch more seasons of it, but it's a very time-consuming show because there's a million seasons and there's a lot of good ones
50th,
and
right?
50
season.
yeah, 50th season is like is that's the big
47
anniversary
season
season.
in
I
this
want to
show.
watch season 50, but the problem is you
They are not
season
caught up,
50
right.
season 50 is not fun unless you watch
Fifth.
seasons 4, 5, 7, 9, 12,
6.
16, and
Right,
so
right,
on. Like
so
it's all these people that they're bringing back. Anyway,
you think you'll
beside
ever
the
catch
point.
up?
Probably not. I mean, maybe I'll watch season 50 at some point, like way in the future, if it ends up being a good
Yeah,
season.
with
I'm
your
kind of skeptical of it being a good season because I keep seeing advertising of like, and here's a challenge presented by Mr. Beast. And I'm like, okay,
oh,
dude, maybe
no.
Survivor's cooked. Maybe Survivor's
Missed the
cooked.
beast.
But anyway, I do want to. I've seen one season. I've seen David versus Goliath, and it was an incredible season of television, and I would like to watch a lot. But I just think it's a very cool character detail, and I think that the way that it sets up this movie and like one thing that you don't appreciate enough when you're watching Survivor is like these people have really, like the people who are on the show have prepared so fucking hard to be there. Like it's like they just like they have like taught
Yes.
themselves like real fucking survival skills, even though oftentimes, and I think even more so on the newer seasons, they like don't even technically have to use all those survival skills, but you're kind of like planning for
Because
anything,
of Mr.
like you're
Beast.
yeah, sure. But well, I just mean like there's less like it's like less involved. It's like a little bit less dangerous than it was in the early seasons, whatever. But the point is like you're kind of preparing for anything. You're like, I don't know what environment I'm gonna be in. Like, I don't know what, like what are the like things that I'm gonna have
Right.
to know how to do. And so you're essentially like what you're doing is preparing for like what if your plane crashed and you're stuck on an
Yeah.
island, And so it is like just kind of a perfect setup for the movie. And then we get to like the plane crash stuff. And before we kind of talk plot, I think we have to just talk about Rachel McAdams and Dylan
Mhm,
O'Brien, who
mhm.
are I think we can maybe both say and we could agree that this is like an A plus letter grade if we were
Right, right, right.
if we
They
were
can get
handing them
that,
out.
yes, A plus,
Um,
A plus.
I think really for both of them, but kind of for different reasons.
Right.
Rachel McAdams has the benefit of just being a terrific character. I
Yes,
don't know
Linda
how.
Little. Linda
Yeah, Linda
Little,
Little is just like one of the
iconic.
great characters in
What a
recent in the past
fucking
year or
love
whatever, right?
Little, Linda Little.
And so she to me was just written so well and is such a fun character,
Mhm.
and Rachel McAdams really gets to like go nuts with it,
Yeah.
I think she toes like a really interesting line between like that she's super smart, like they set up well that she's super smart, but then she also has like clearly like some weird stuff about her that kind of starts to develop over the course of the movie, and then like you remind yourself about certain, like you pick up certain
No,
things, and
she's fu there's
and and
nothing
she's
weird
got she's got
about
very
Linda
fun.
Little.
Yeah, she's got very
She's
fun
so
quirks.
normal.
I wouldn't say that, but
She's
she's
so
got very fun
normal,
quirks.
bro.
Dylan O'Brien is like a much more standard movie character, I think, and like
Right.
movie villain, I think, and maybe isn't written in the most like intricate way. It's very simply like villain who is bad because he's a CEO and a bad boss, like like tropes that we've seen
Yes.
however many times, right? Like it's not the most inventive character. However, I was watching Dylan O'Brien on this movie and I was having a fucking hoot, dude. I was
Mm,
I was laughing my ass off. There are some scenes in this movie where Rachel McAdams, not even like to like do a specific scene, but just Rachel McAdams will just like be acting crazy, and like you don't know if Dylan O'Brien's going along with it or if he's not. And like
Right.
she'll just be like saying some weird shit, and then the camera cuts to Dylan O'Brien's face, and he's not even like doing anything. His face is just like on the screen normal, and I just start laughing my ass off. Like he has such a
Mm.
perfect face for the archetype of character that he's playing. I don't know that you could cast this
Oh,
any
wow.
better.
Oh, wow.
Like, I don't know that there's a person in Hollywood whose face would have lent itself more to the comedy of this movie than Dylan O'Brien. I think he is like actually laugh out loud hilarious in this movie. And really when he's not doing anything. So it's like I don't know how much of the credit is to the performance
You're
or
just
how much of it
laughing
is
at
just
his
like
face,
I'm
bro.
just laughing at his face. But even in the performance, it's like little things. Like there's so many moments where he kind of just like makes a noise. You know, he's like she like feeds him pretty early in the movie after their plane crash, and he's just like, and like,
Yeah.
like his specific like gagging
Mhm, mhm.
noise is just like, man, this guy's just like,
Yeah.
there's just a real
No, he's
natural funny to this guy.
and
Um,
maybe so maybe I mean, I was talking earlier about, like, Sam Raimi maybe not appreciated yet, maybe too or, like, I think Dylan O'Brien's having a little bit of a renaissance, at now, obviously, came popular at a young age with some
from the Maze
teen
Runner stuff, yeah.
Maze Runner, Teen Wolf
When you
kinda
look
stuff,
at his
like,
filmography, though, you realize like this guy hasn't really been in that
been
much.
in anything.
Yeah,
But also,
like
he's been in, like I mean, for a
he
34-year-old, this
has.
is a pretty, like, decent like, I mean, amount of movies, but it's also, like, it feels like this guy's been around forever, and been, like, a big name, and he's always felt like one of those people who was like, "This guy's gonna break out. This guy's gonna
Yeah.
be" and then kinda never happened,
I
right?
think he is a classic case, and there are so many people like this, but he's, I think, a really good example. I even said this to my friend right when we left this movie because we were kind of talking about Dylan O'Brien, and he hadn't really seen Dylan O'Brien in anything except for Maze Runner, and I kind of, we pretty much agreed on the fact that he is like a very classic case of like you know him more as a celebrity than you do as
Right,
an actor. You know,
right.
it's like Dylan O'Brien just is like pretty much everybody you know just knows who Dylan O'Brien is, but like how many Dylan O'Brien performances they've seen, you know, who knows? Mostly it's just Maze Runner for most people. Obviously, he's been in other stuff, but
Yeah,
for most people, it's just like that's the guy from Maze Runner, and we still know him now. And he grew up, but like he's famous because he's Dylan O'Brien, not because he's like turning in big
mhm,
performances and big movies or winning awards or whatever. Like it's just like you just know Dylan O'Brien.
yeah.
Um, I don't know.
I
That's my assessment of him. But then it
I think
makes
it's
casting
fair.
him in this movie very exciting because you realize you're like, man, this guy is awesome. Like, yeah, I don't know. And he even had like what was that movie this past year,
Twinless?
Twinless or whatever. Like, it's like he has like these like he's making choices and like people really liked that movie. I still haven't watched it, but people really liked that movie. Um, and
Yeah,
it's not his fault that it's like this small little movie, you know.
he needs to do, like, the Rob Pat thing. Obviously, like, you know, kind of taking that, like, Twilight Maze Runner, celebrity fame from that teen audience, and then, like, just go do weird shit, man.
Yeah,
Just disappear, go do weird shit for, like, 5 years, and then really pop out. Because
maybe he'll become a movie star.
dude, I think he could, like, I think he can do
I think yeah, he has a real movie star quality to him. I think that he
um
could if that's what he's interested in doing.
And
Like if that's like
and
the
he
highest
has
level for him.
I mean, Jacob Elordi too. Put him in that kind of like just like, people coming from that kind of audience or kind of quality of thing. And then just like dude, like you have the name recognition, you have that kind of pull and that weight. We're like, just go be weird. Just go do stuff. Go be and I feel like that's kind of like Twinless and like even this, it's like I don't know. I'm interested to see where he goes from this because I think he's very good in this. I think he's doing like crazy. I mean, I was talking about this in like um Ella McKay, but like there's just kind of like the voices and the noise, like you were saying, the noises he's making, like his laugh is amazing. He's got such a great laugh in this
Terrific laugh.
movie.
But
And
another one of those things, like little
just like,
details.
but it's so like all these like weird noises they're talking about fit so well tonally in the world in this movie that Sam Raimi is kind of creating. And I think prior to the film, I think you could be like, Dylan O'Brien seems a little weird for this. Like, can he, if you're, I'm not being too familiar with him, it's like, okay, this is some like, you know, young teen heartthrob, attractive actor. Like, can he be a little bit of a freak? And that's kind of like what I'm talking about the Rob Pat thing. It's like, go be a little freak, man. Like, just go be a weird
Yeah.
freak. Like, just like try everything. Just like really stretch your skin a little bit. And I think like he it's almost like the role itself, what you're saying, where like he's perfect for that role because like he's looks wise, like he's kind of matching and he's perfect for the archetype. But then like the character itself, as maybe not like the most intelligent, like it's not the greatest written character of all time, but the character itself is subverting that pretty boy kind of thing. And like, okay, now like you're fucking lost at sea and you're losing your mind and you're like losing it. And you're kind of like a freak in general. Like you're just kind of a crazy guy. And in the kind of energy, the whole movie is up to 12 anyway. So just play it like that. And I think he
Yeah.
does a really good job of that.
Yeah. And then I think, it's kind of like complete opposite case for Rachel McAdams, who is just like pretty proven movie star, right? I mean,
Oh,
like
yeah.
in not only in big hits, but then on top of that, just like such a talented actress. Like both proven
Incredible.
comedic work and dramatic work, and it's kind of a mix of the two here because, um, I mean, she's very funny in this movie, uh,
Oh, yeah.
but she also has to like again play this like very specific character. And I'm watching the movie, I was just like, how many people could you replace Rachel McAdams with? And
Right.
it's like same thing with Dylan O'Brien is like, probably close to nobody.
It's
Like,
very interesting because I mean, the movie, a lot of conversations about like it being a throwback, kind of like 90s, 2000s horror movie. And like one of the big like tropes is like
sure,
this like
yeah,
ugly, like
right.
disgusting,
It's like one
like
of the most beautiful women
right.
alive,
And it's like
and
it's
like,
Rachel McAdams is beautiful
and all
the
she has to do is
entire
like
time.
take a shower in this like waterfall, and then she steps out of the
Yeah.
waterfall, and you're like, whoa! But even though the whole entire time
Oh,
it's
I
like
didn't
Rachel
really even I
McAdams.
was like the whole time she was like, I
I
don't know,
I
she's
I understood it.
incredible.
I understood it in the text of the movie
Right,
that like
I
the
see what you're
waterfall was
saying.
the
I didn't even think
transformation. You
about
know what
that.
I
It's like
mean?
took her
Um,
glasses off,
Yeah, exactly. Like the waterfall is when she like because the waterfall is also like right after she takes a shower at the waterfall is when they have dinner and Dylan O'Brien like compliments her and he's like, "Oh, you look good." Like or
Right,
something like that.
right,
He says
right.
something about how she looks and I'm like, "Okay, so that was
It's
but
very funny because
that's a very funny trope. It's like a trope that
but
hasn't
I
like,
think like yeah, it's
it's
like
been
I think
used a lot
you
recently.
can that's what I'm saying, where like you could kind of look at this script and be like, oh, like maybe you cast someone else that more fits that like what they're kind of going for. But I think because it feels so much like this, like, even like just even talking about like driving to hell, like that 2000s kind of thing, where it's like we're going back a little bit with this one. I feel like it makes perfect sense to cast this like gorgeous actress as in this role. Also, I mean, Sam Raimi, of course, met Rachel McAdams on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and that's when he knew he like wanted to continue working with her because he liked working with her so much in that one. So I think a big part of this movie like is like let's do a movie with Rachel.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a version of this that doesn't have her in it. And I think she's like the heart and soul of it. Like her Linda Little is just the
Yeah.
best. I don't
Both
know.
both her performance and her character like
Yeah,
make the
it's
movie
like
what it
oh,
is.
it's so awesome.
Um let's talk a little bit about just like the actual story. And this is where maybe, we've already talked about like some scenes, I guess, but this is probably
Right.
where we should, you know, go full spoiler warning for people who care about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I like story-wise, I think this is, an interesting one to talk about. Very tropey, like we've already mentioned before. We've
Yeah.
already mentioned, like, some tropes, but there's a lot of them, and, like, very much, like, in the same vein as a lot of movies for a lot of different like, it's very much like a lot of survival movies that you've seen or,
Mhm.
like, a lot of, like, whatever, like, plane crash, blah, 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 like, all that stuff, um but then it just gets, like, super inventive and pretty fun, and I think for me, something that I've been kind of, without getting into, like, specific plot details even, something that I've been kind of, back and forth on in my head is, and I'm curious maybe if your opinion on this will help me a little bit. People people have been talking about the movie kinda, like, stalling out at some points like later because it's
Yeah.
it gets a little bit like cyclical and repetitive and as is the case with like a lot of movies like this, it's like you're stuck on the island and you have like X amount of ideas and then you're like, okay, well the movie's not over, but we still need to like things still need to happen. And so like there's
Yeah.
a lot of like surviving on the island for maybe longer than some people would like. And it's like, the gears are just turning for a little bit too long. I definitely could seem that like I could almost feel that while watching the movie, but at the same time, there's this kind of like and I think what this comes from, I could be wrong, but like in my head, the whole setup of her as like a survivor fanatic and like just like
Yeah.
doing these little like tasks around the island and like there's like a kind of like fun tension to the movie where I'm like, I don't really care that it kind of like got repetitive
Yeah.
towards the end. I was like, I kind of just like wanted to keep seeing how she like made this work, like it's
Right.
and so it's strange because I could definitely I felt it in the back of my mind while I was watching it. I was like, there is just a little bit of like, oh, she did this already kind of thing. Like, I don't know if we really needed this like 15-minute stretch where they just do things that they've already done. But at the same time, I was like, "No, this is just kind of fun. And I think it keeps the energy the whole way through. Like I don't think there's ever
Mhm.
like a shift in the energy.
Yeah.
It's very like even when it's repetitive, it's still very it finds a way to be funny or like it finds a way to like be tense a little bit. I don't
Mhm.
know what your opinion of that is, but
Yeah. So they crash on this island, right? And there's a scene early on in that where she's out doing whatever and she sees a boat and she's like, "Wait, not yet." Which is very interesting where she
yeah,
is like, when you're obviously when you're crashed on an island, the first thing like you want to get out. That's basically
yeah,
first you wanna live, you wanna survive, but your goal is to get off the island, and that is, that Survivor movie 101 or whatever. But I really love the concept of her being like, "No, like, let's, like" I kinda like there's, like, some, like, weird romance in this movie that's really interesting
it's
to me,
fun.
where she's like,
Yeah,
"No, like, I kinda like this guy, and, like, we could just, like, live on this island forever." And it's like,
yeah,
it's like there's some, like, crazy, psycho shit going on there, but I kind of it does feel there's some, like, um I was thinking of, like, the movie May and some other, like, 2000s, like, horror movies where I really love the, like, you know, this kind of, like, um, female-led horror movie where she's like, "No," almost like there's, like, this almost like a misery has been brought up as, like, a thing of, like but, like, there's, like,
right.
a trapping to the obviously, Misery's not a 2000 horror movie, but I'm thinking of, like, examples of that where it's like, I don't know, the romance stuff is really interesting to me, but also, like, there's the tension of, like, she's trying to keep him on the island, but, like, he's always trying to get out, and for a bit of the movie, I'm like, but there's a moment in the movie where there's, like, harmony and there's, like, peace, and they're kinda,
Yeah.
like, living there, and it's, like, kinda really sweet, and I'm like,
It's
I
sweet.
kinda love it, and I kinda love it, but also the movie is like, "Okay, we need to be a horror movie again."
Yes.
So,
But
I don't know, I kind of love them.
I agree. I think there is like a sweet little stretch. I think what's fun to me is that a lot of tension builds through, like, the twists and turns that the story is willing to take, like, in perspective even, where, it's like she's the character you're rooting for pretty much the whole time
Yeah.
because her boss is a piece of shit and, like, all this stuff. But then there's even a point where you're like, "Oh, is she the bad guy?" But then, like,
Mm,
he reminds you very quickly where it's like, "No, this guy's still an asshole." And
right.
then, like, yeah, I don't know, it's interesting. Like, and then even when, like, there's, like, the romantic tension of, like, you know, she thinks that it makes sense to stay on the island, and she's like, "Oh, maybe I will do this." And then in the back of your head, you're like, "Wait, but, like, this guy's a piece of shit. Like, why would she wanna stay
Right,
here with this
right.
guy?" And so, like, there's always, like, there's like a constant, like, thing of, like, this is happening, but it also doesn't make sense for this to happen, and so, like, the perspective's kind of always, shifting,
Yeah.
I thought. Like, even, like, in those moments where it's like, for a second, you're like, "Oh, is this gonna be a thing where it's like Dylan O'Brien actually, like, escapes and she's, like, the bad guy?" And then, like, 2 minutes later, you're like, "No, of course not." It's
Right.
like, yeah, like, so it's, like, stuff like that where I'm like, "This is kind of interesting because it keeps the momentum
No,
building the whole
definitely,
time."
like, you're guessing, like, where are they gonna take this? Because obviously it is, a complete failure of a piece if, like, they're like, "Oh, she's the bad guy?" Like, come on. No way. But you're like, "Okay, I kinda like Dylan O'Brien right now, like, I kinda like them together." So, if none of them are a bad guy, like, what I almost was, like, waiting for some, like, environmental or, like, some other, like, kind of obstacle from the island to kind of because, okay, we're watching a horror movie, like, what's the horror gonna be? They're even and then there's a sequence where Dylan O'Brien's fiance shows up at the island, and then there's some stuff there, and then there's like the
Yeah.
zombie thing, which is kind of coming at your horror. It's supposed to kind of explode from there, and it really, there's a whole kind of crazy fight
Yeah.
moment stuff with them, and it really
Yeah.
gets it. But there is some moment where it's like, I don't know, like where are they gonna go with it? And I think it does have some interesting and fun twists and turns. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I think
I
it's a definitely surprising for
Right.
sure.
I would even say it leans way more into being a thriller than, like, a horror movie,
Right.
with, like, the exception of a few scares. I mean, there's, like, a jump scare in there with, like, that kind of, zombie ghost
It's
thing
like
that, like, kinda like, "Oh, whoa." I
yeah,
was, like, in
yeah,
my seat, I was like, "Oh, okay, I forgot that because mostly it disarms you a little bit. Like, there's not a ton of jump scares, and so you're kinda like, "Oh, this is just a thriller," and then randomly he'll throw that in there, and I'm like, "Wait a second."
yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. That's maybe one of my only complaints about the movie is there are definitely moments where I'm like, you could have really like gone all the way with this one, and I would
yeah.
have been like game, like, and I think I think the scene that most people would refer to for like as an example of this is like there's a scene where she
Oh,
off screen almost fixes Dylan
right.
O'Brien up,
Crazy.
and it ends
And
up
you were like, they should have just cut his shit off.
I don't know if I wanted them to, like,
I was like,
necessarily, like
what is going on?
yeah, I was like because in my head, I was like, "Oh, she might actually do it." Like, I wasn't
Right.
thinking that she was just, like, doing it to an animal until she revealed it. But I wasn't sure what
No,
was
of course
going
not.
on. I was, like, a little bit like, "Whoa, is this really happening?" And
Yeah,
I think, uh, it's a fun, like, gag to be like, "Oh, actually, it was an animal, and, like, next time I'll do it for real." But I'm also like I don't know, like, just, like he's, like, a big, like, blood and guts guy, you know what I mean? So I'm like, "Maybe just show me a little blood and guts," I know that, like, it ruins the reveal if we could see it happening, but I
Right,
wanted to see, like, something happen, And I'm like, especially,
right.
like, the premise of, like, okay, this guy is here, and, like, at some point like, at that point, she's kinda leaning into, like, the, like, "Oh, I'm gonna torture this guy" thing, and that never
Right,
really, like, actually physically happens, right? Like he never really like
right.
undergoes like any pain aside from
'Cause she loves
the
him.
yes, of course, but it's like
So s
it's just like sure it's sweet. I'm like, but I want it to be like a little
Uh,
gory. I'm like, this is a
no,
guy
I
who
know.
loves blood,
I think
and there's blood,
it's tough, like, the
but
problem, like I mean, I guess Evil Dead is like the thing with Evil Dead is like when you're just with like Ash, it's like you have all these like you have all this like kind of demons and shit coming
Yeah,
at you where it's like
disposable, just like things that you could do
here
violence
here
to.
it's like you're it's tricky because you just have these two characters and it's like, you know, I don't know, it's an interesting task as a horror writer to kind
Yeah.
of attack it, but I think it does a pretty good job of it, but it is tough because like, when you're viewing it, you're like, "Okay, I kinda like, I don't know, it's interesting. It really is
But then I'd
interesting,
even
it's like
argue,
that."
does it pull a punch? You know, like let's say for example, like the rat thing is just a gag, right?
Yeah.
Does it then like pull a punch when his fiance and the other person on the boat show up and it's like maybe there should have been more blood and guts there, you know? I do think it's like I don't know.
Sure.
In my head when I was like evaluating it after, I was like, so
You're like,
really like the
"Your blood."
violence is animal violence, you know? Like that's
I
what it
mean,
comes down to.
they get
And
pretty
they get a
they're
little bit violent at the end, I guess. Yeah. But you know what I mean? I'm
um,
like, really, like the big, like centerpiece, like blood and guts kind of scene involves an animal. And I will
right.
say, probably my favorite scene in the movie. Like,
Okay,
I
yeah, yeah.
I was very pro like camera on the boar, just like real crazy
Oh,
Sam
yeah, okay, that's what
Raimiism.
I'm
Just
talking
like
about.
put the
Yeah,
camera on it
that's a
when it's
great
like
scene, that's a
flying and
great
like it's
scene.
yeah, that was awesome, and I was such a fan of that. But yeah, I don't know. I couldn't help but think, like, after, like, some time passed, I was like, "Maybe he pulled a punch here or 2, like,
Yeah.
1 or 2 punches," you know? I'm like,
Yeah,
"Maybe
I
there could have
wonder
been a little bit
I don't
more."
know, I think, like, if it was to be, like, more of um, a bloody
Sure.
woo,
Ooh,
more of a
bless you.
whoa, dude, what the heck? I sneezed, and then Spotify just immediately started playing,
Yeah.
like, turned it on, I was like, "What the heck?" Okay, I think, like, I don't know, I think because like, Multiverse of Madness, Evil Dead, all these, like, kind of, or even Driving to Hell, there's just, like, a lot of more of these, like, cosmic kind of, like, or, like, undead creatures, and you get that in, like, the
Yeah.
dream thing, but I think if it would were to be, like, more of, like, a crazy thing, I think there would have to be more they would have to discover more shit on the island that would have whatever. It would be a different
Yeah,
movie, but
even that I was like, you know and again, I'm saying all of this from the perspective of somebody who had a fucking blast with this movie, but I'm just like, "Huh,
right.
I wonder if there couldn't have been more on the island. I wonder if there couldn't have been like a I think for example, if we're talking about like some other things that are like revealed twists and turns, the big twist is that like she's been getting all of this stuff from a mansion on the island. Like this island is
Right.
probably just owned by one person who has their house
Yeah.
on the island. And you know, very convenient for the story
Yeah.
that person is not home and that you get to like do it as this reveal. But I'm also like, huh, what if those people were there? Like what if she had to murder the
Right.
security guards? Like what if you know what I mean? I'm like, I just do think that there is a way for them to have written more obstacles on the island into the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying that like 90% of the movie doesn't work. It does. But I think about that kind of like
Mhm,
10
mhm.
to 15 minutes where there's, where everything kind of like gets repetitive. And I'm just like, huh, what if you
Yeah.
replace that 10 to 15 minutes of like, oh, we have to build our tent again. Like, what if you just replace that with like, oh, here's another person on the island that like we need to murder in a
Right,
brutal
right,
way. You know what I
right.
mean? I'm like, maybe this goes from like super fun to like, astronomical levels of fun. Like you're
Yeah,
just like, you
no,
know what I mean? I'm like, I wonder if it wouldn't have just been more of a roller
I
coaster.
agree, I think there could have been a lot more, on the island that could have gone different directions. I do really love the scene where Dylan O'Brien, like, builds a raft and tries to,
Yes,
like, go
yes,
out
that was
there,
awesome.
because that, like, is something where it's like, "Oh, this is, like, a new thing we're doing," and I yeah, I don't know, there's definitely ways that they could have punched it up and stuff, but I think what we got is pretty great,
Yeah,
but definitely could have been I don't know, because
yeah,
well, my thing too is
I
with this movie being so well received, you're getting a lot of talk about X, Y, and Z. And while I do really like this movie, to me, it's like, yeah, it's great, but it's nowhere near like at least it's like best case scenario. Maybe it's like top eight, where it's like
Sure.
this none of this stuff that really matters. But I've been seeing it kind of throw around. I was like, oh, this is the fourth best Sam Raimi movie or something, or
Yeah.
whatever. And it's like I guess that's all personal preference, but like I think it's really good. But he's made some all timers, and I don't think it is that. Although I really do like it.
It's
Um,
not, I don't know if it's
I
an
don't know.
all-timer,
It's
but
tough to like say. Like I
it's
don't
very
know.
much like a movie we need, you know? It's
Oh,
very much like
oh,
a here's
really?
what
Yeah, yeah.
people want and need, and, like, this is what should
Mhm.
be playing in theaters, and, like, and
Yeah,
sometimes a movie like that has a real impact on you, you know? Like, if it comes out at the right moment and it's like, "This is just a thing I need." That is even, like, you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, like, that is even how I felt about Ella McKay, where I'm just like, "Yeah, they don't really make movies like this," and so, like,
yeah.
is it one of my 20 favorite movies of last? Is it one of the 20 best movies I've seen last year? I don't know. Yeah, maybe, but it's also just like maybe I just needed that movie because no other movie I saw last year was Ellen McKay,
Right,
and
right, right.
maybe this whole year I'm not going to see another Send Help, and so
Yeah,
like
no, I will say
sometimes it
this
just hits at the right time and then it
it's
all works out.
it's definitely in the running, and it will be in the running for the best horror movie of the year. I do think that's a big thing why this movie is so successful and, like, people are loving it so much. It's like, if it like, Evil it's no Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2, right? But no
Yeah,
one is making Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2 anymore.
yeah,
Like, no one's even coming close to that
yeah.
shit, man, and it's like
And so bringing back
it
some of
is
those gags
specifically
and
like
like the
specifically like the tone and stuff that he's doing is like no one's doing this shit, man. And like he's
yeah,
really like he's kind of showing these youngsters what's up, man. Because it's
right,
like,
yeah,
dude, like I don't know, like and like a lot of people, I mean, like a lot of young horror filmmakers, or I'm saying young, but like these people are in their 40s, but like there's a lot of Sam Raimi influence going around. They're still making Evil Dead movies, man. Those
true.
movies stink.
Okay. I mean,
Those
I don't
movies
agree with
stink.
that, but
They're worse than this movie.
I think they're very
Or
different movies.
you see that? I would say that, right? Or there is it Evil Dead you really like? The new one?
I don't know. The new ones I don't like as much as this movie. No.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I was gonna say.
But I will say I think the 2013 Evil Dead is a pretty gnarly movie. Like I
Right,
don't think
but
it's
yeah,
not a
sure,
Sam Raimi movie, but I think there's room to appreciate something like that. I like a
fair.
gnarly like gore fest, I think it's
Yeah,
a fun movie.
but
Um,
times have
this is more
changed for
fun,
sure.
but
Right. Times have changed. I think it's yeah, I don't know. I really I'm excited. I mean, I kinda open with that, but I'm excited for
yeah,
this next period because it's tough. Like, I feel like we're it's a harsh industry, and we tend, some of these it's tough to get in, but it's also, like, sometimes people just kick you out. You just, like, get sometimes people get forgotten about, and it seems like Sam Raimi is gonna stick around,
yeah,
and get a nice little, like, back half, and that's super exciting.
right.
And I think while maybe this isn't like one of his best, who knows, man? Who fucking knows? I feel
Who
like
knows?
he could make some crazy shit.
Yeah. Before we kind of wrap up on this movie, I wanted to mention just like a specific scene, and I think we've actually done a pretty good job discussing the movie without spoiling all of it.
Yeah.
But if there are specific scenes that you want to mention before we wrap up, the one thing that I just like had to mention because I kind of talked about, I think really what won me over is just like how funny the movie is, and I don't know how many times this year I'm gonna laugh as hard as I did when Rachel McAdams is just uh puking repeatedly
Oh,
on Dylan O'Brien.
yeah.
It
His
is
face.
a really terrific, you mentioned it when he goes out on his raft. Really terrific setup where he goes out on his raft after poisoning her, and
Mhm.
then she saves him and the poison that he used comes
Yeah.
back to just like, but and that was like to me maybe the height of the face acting where it's like here's Dylan O'Brien's face who just like almost died, and now she's just like puking repeatedly in his face, and I love a joke that runs just like a little too long, you know what I mean? Like I love when
Yeah.
like you think it's like, oh, this is the last bit of the joke, and then they just repeat it one more time, and I'm just like, man, that's funny. And she just kept fucking puking, and I was giggling and kicking my feet in the chair. I was like, this is the funniest shit in the world to me. So I just wanted to mention that. I don't know if there's any other scenes that you want
Right,
to like
right.
touch on before we call it a day here, but
I don't know. I don't I just I it's really I think, I just really love all the little, like, watching Rachel McAdams, watching Linda Little, like, geek out on, like, collecting rain and, like, building a
yeah,
little
that I mean
thing,
that
and
was really a blast too.
it's so like, I don't know, that stuff's awesome.
Yeah,
Just how like, oh, and Dylan O'Brien, she, like, kicks him out, and he comes
and then
back
he has to
in,
build his
and she
little
has,
like
like
thing and
yeah,
beg her.
there's
Yeah,
very, like there's some, like, Madagascar vibes going on.
that's
But
funny. Yeah,
it's very funny, and then, there's the over top nature of, like, she got, like, this whole sushi spread or whatever, right?
right.
But
Yeah,
I think it
it's
also plays
very
in the fact
funny.
where it's like she she not only, eh, has studied this all the time, but also she has that secret fucking, so that she got both those things play on it, so there's
Right.
almost this performance from her level where it's like, "Oh, I just found this knife that that, like,
Yeah.
showed up,"
That's
and
like
it's like
also, I guess I was just as stupid as him to not, like, question that
and I
detail
was like,
too much,
"Sure, sure you did."
but when it did wash up, I was just like,
It's
"That
like
can't be right."
it's not like
I
a
was like
rusty knife or
because
anything, it's
yeah, because
like
I was like, if it washes up, like, it's like, when's the last like, where did that knife come from? You know what I mean? Like, that knife must have been in the water for fucking for
yeah.
forever, you know? And she pulls it out and she's like, "Here's my knife," and it's like freshly sharpened, and I'm like, but you know what?
Mhm.
Also, like, didn't what maybe disarmed me a little bit is that like she's been so resourceful. Like she's so good at like she is so
Right.
prepared that she's just like taking everything and making it better. So in my head, I saw the knife and I was like, oh, she probably just like sharpened it with a rock or something. You know what I mean? Like it's like no wonder it's a perfect knife. Like I mean, she's making fucking
Right.
sushi. You know?
No,
So
I
I was
know,
like,
that's what I'm saying where it's like
oh
there's such an over the top nature to it that it's like, "Oh, okay." You totally just believe that, like, she found a knife,
right,
okay, which makes,
yeah,
like, the reveal is kind of really strong in that way where it's like, "Oh, like, okay." I'd never, like I was just like, "Oh, yeah, she just found a knife." I totally like, that being, like, the kind of set off of, like, where sh like, that's pretty much all she, like I mean, she ate food from there, right? But, like, she pretty
yeah,
much only just had, like, that knife, which I
right,
think they could have maybe gone further. I was thinking, like, and during our conversation, I was thinking very, like, in a Scooby-Doo manner, like, if she, like, got stuff that, like, scared the shit out of him or, like,
that would be
just, like,
funny.
is, like, doing, like,
That would be
traps and
really
stuff.
funny, actually.
Like,
Just
she
like
was, like,
dressing up in like
booby
costumes.
trap
Yeah,
or yeah, costumes or, like, booby trapping the island sort of thing, like,
yeah.
just kinda, like, terrify him
Oh,
more. Like, kind
that
of
would be
go
so
in
silly.
line more with I guess it's tough because it, like you gotta do it without it depends when you wanna reveal that island thing,
Right.
um, but, like, I love the idea of, like, her being like, "Okay, no, not ready we're not ready to leave yet, and I'm gonna torment you," but also, like, by doing that, like, adding more scares and stuff,
Yes.
by,
Yeah.
like, just, like, fucking messing with
I'll
him
say it.
more.
Sam Raimi, send help too. Call us, man. We got some
Yeah.
ideas. We got some ideas.
Right, right.
All right, we're gonna talk a little bit about some news before we wrap up. Not a ton to discuss, but we'll cover that really quickly. Before we do that, reminding everybody, of course, to share some feedback if you'd like listening to us talk about Send Help by liking, commenting, subscribing on YouTube, rating the episode on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and following us at all of the links in the description. Make sure to follow us on X or Twitter, of course. That is where we post about every new episode and everything
Mhm.
happening with the podcast. News wise, got a bit to cover, but I guess a good place to start is with another movie in the horror world. Callum Turner and Margaret Qualley are reportedly in talks to star in Smile director Parker Finn's Possession remake. You and I got to talk about this a little bit off
We
pod.
did talk about
Um,
this.
yes,
Right.
and I was saying I like both these actors. I still don't like my head is not like completely in the game here, but my thing is like I like this guy. I just think
Oh.
that this is like
Yeah, no, well,
this
this is
is
the
like
thing,
doesn't need to
right?
be happening, but I'm like I like these smile movies and I think they very effectively scare the shit out of me. And so like if you just told me that Callum Turner and Margaret Qualley were in this guy's next movie,
Right,
I would be like, "This sounds like a blast."
right,
Like, I'm there. But it's
right,
just the possession
right.
thing that, like, pisses people off, and I get
Because
why it's
what are we
pissing so many
doing, man?
people off, because it also, like, I'm like, "I don't need this." But I don't know, man. I'm like,
Yeah,
maybe there's
um,
something there.
it just it feels like it's tough because it's like, not that the Smile movies are bad movies, but they are very different than
Yes, of
Possession.
course.
Obviously, I'm not like it could totally be a very different movie than the Smile movies, but it just I worry, and it's interesting not to like be like, but like Possession, as many know, has risen in popularity
Right.
online and stuff like that. And you wonder like what kind of movie are you gonna get where like you'll see like the kind of the very Twitter like post the gif of her,
Yeah,
kind of vibe of the movie. And
yeah.
like I don't know, I feel like it's gonna be a very um I don't know. I feel like it's gonna lean into that
It
kind of
also I think
culture space. I
possession
don't
just
know, man.
exists in this I think it exists in this, like
You can't it's like not a movie you really can remake. I don't know.
exactly. I'm like, I don't know that, like, remake like, a Hollywood version of this movie will have any of the same vibe, energy, atmosphere as, like, Possession. Like, I don't know that that's something you could recreate the
No.
way that you could when, it was made in the '80s. Like, it's just that's not,
Yeah. It just
like
does
and for
not
that to be, like, this kind of, like, independent horror film, directed by a non-Hollywood director, it's like it's just a very different,
Yeah.
vibe to, like, the produced Hollywood possession movie that we're gonna
Right,
get inevitably, like,
right. I don't know.
regardless of, like, what he's going for, it's just, like, it's not the same, um,
I
if
wish I
it's
knew,
just,
but,
like
like, it's tough because like, we don't know anything, and
yeah,
it's I don't know, because obviously horror movies have been remade for forever, and, like, I'm not against that. It just does not if, like, this specific movie feels
yeah,
really weird to remake,
and it
and
feels
I
like,
don't I don't know, but the cast, it's like I just it's like, yikes. I'm gonna be
right,
real, like, because it's like it's tough to be like anybody could do this, right? But when this was first announced, it was like Rob Patton is supposed to be, producing or something,
yeah,
and I'm sure he still is, but I'll tell you, you know, it's gonna be a tough pill to swallow no matter what, but I think Rob Pat is much more in line with following up Sam Neill than
yes,
Callum
sure,
Turner, and I'm like,
sure.
Callum Turner is fine, whatever, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like,
I know what you're saying.
if they're gonna remake it, they're forcing you to remake it. It's like if Rob Pat was doing it, I'm like, okay, that's at least fun. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. If I,
Yeah.
it's gonna be. I'm not
I think the hardest thing to, like, accept about it is and you kind of alluded to this before, is, like, it's kind of like a nothing is sacred thing,
yeah.
where it's like, if movies grow their, like, reputation over time and develop this kind of, like,
Right.
cult following, it's just like, does that mean that they're game for remakes?
That's what I'm like. Where
And the
it's
answer is, like,
interesting.
pretty much always gonna be yes. And so, with a lot of those movies, you're like, that's just like possession is just like a sacred thing. It's like nobody needs that again. Everybody who loves possession is like, this is possession. It's like we don't
Right.
need possession 2 or possession
Mhm.
remade. Like, it's like this is the thing that I'm gonna love forever.
Right.
Um,
It's
and
just
like, you look at like
I
you
don't
talk
know.
about horror movies being remade. Like, you look at like franchise horror movies and you're like, I don't know, nobody's really getting upset about like it's like I love, Scream or like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Nobody's getting upset that they've
Well,
made
that's
10
what
of
I
those
was
movies.
thinking
Like, it's like
about. It
that's
was
just
like,
normal. Like, it's like, duh. You don't
right.
really
But
do that
possession
with something like
exists.
this.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Where it's like it feels more aligned with like, and I haven't seen these movies, but what is it like? Speak No Evil, like they like remade it like in
Yes.
English or
Right.
something. Like because I haven't seen those, but it
Yeah.
feels more of like that where it's like, what are we doing? Like,
But even
what?
that, I'm like, that might
It's
be
different though
it
because it's like a
that
newer
yeah,
movie,
the
but it's
original is
still
probably not the, of the quality of Possession, but that might be an even, like, bigger offense just to be like, "Here's this movie that just came out, let's remake it 2 years
right.
later," At least Possession is
Mm,
4 decades old,
sure, but
Like,
it just feels different than, like, we're gonna do, like, a new Friday the 13th movie, like, we're gonna
yeah,
do a new
yeah,
Halloween, because of, like, the pop appeal of those things, but I think because what we're talking about and where I started with, like, because Possession is now, like, shifted into, like, pop culture somehow, despite what the movie is, because like, the movie's audience, not everyone, of course, but, like, some of the movie's audience feels a little different than, like, what the actual movie is, in a way where, like, sometimes, like, not I'm not even saying this movie, but, like, sometimes, like, think people will be fans of things that, like, it's like they don't watch it, or I don't know, I feel like that's, like, a very asshole thing to say, but, like, like, there's, like, a culture around, like, because there's, like, that movie feels very, like, "Oh, people, like, love some of these scenes or these, like, images," but,
yeah.
like, do they really like the movie? You know? I don't know. I don't really know. I'm having a tough time thinking about it because it feels weird, and of course we'll have to see the movie, but it just does not
Yeah,
feel
what
like
if it just fucking rocks? What
a
if it's just,
worthy
like, the best
experiment.
movie of the year?
What it feels like though, I feel like it's just gonna be fine,
No, I agree. I think
and then
I do think
it's
that the
gonna be like
most likely
whatever.
outcome is, like, what I think?
It's like an
This
okay
is
movie.
actually we kinda talked about it already this episode where I'm like, I think the best case scenario is that, like, this is something like the 2013 Evil Dead movie, where it's like this, like, you took this, like, classic horror movie and you remake it in a way that is, like, way different, and
Yeah,
it's, like, fun, but everybody is like, this isn't the thing that it was," like, nobody like, I'm not sitting here being like the
yeah,
2013 Evil Dead is better than the Sam Raimi Evil Deads, but it's also, like, so different. Like, it's like a gore
yeah.
fest,
Well,
like,
that's
and
what
it's,
I'm
like, not
saying.
comedy, and I'm like, I wonder if this, like, Possession remake is not just gonna be like, the Smile movies are just, like, full of jump scares, like, endless, like, kind of, like, ridiculous. You know what I mean? And I'm like, what if it's just like a Possession remake, but it's just,
That
like, tons of jump scares,
exactly.
like, very different energy, and so you're like, "That was a good time at the movies,"
Where
Like,
I feel like that is what it's gonna be, where
yeah,
it's gonna be Possession, like, remix sorta thing that's, like, much more of this, like, pop horror movie jump scares and, like, totally, like, different from the kind of tone and energy of what made the original really great, but kind of capitalizing on the popularity that is these, like, very specific scenes that, everyone knows that kind of go viral online, taking those scenes and then making it into, like, a very palatable, kind of more cash friendly, audience friendly,
yeah,
uh, you know, general audience horror movie, um, that I think would do really well and be a big success with a certain type of audience, but would render a disgrace to many fans of the original picture.
yes, of course, yeah.
So
I don't know, we'll see. I mean, we're also gonna there'll probably be updates about this at some point, we'll probably get
yeah, yeah, yeah.
some news. Another piece of news here that I think is like an interesting topic of discussion, though I don't know that tonight's the night that we have to dive deep into it.
Nice and nice.
Odessa Zion reveals that she has dropped out of Sean Durkin's adaptation of Deep Cuts, starring Drew Starkey and Kaylee Spaney.
Yeah,
This was kind of inspired by controversy because the uh, character that she's supposed to play in the book is a Latina woman, I believe, and
mhm,
Odessa Zion very clearly not.
right.
And we've seen similar stuff with like Jacob Elordi and Wuthering Heights recently,
Yep,
and yeah, so she kind of just like very publicly was like, "Listen, I didn't know this, and I hear you guys, and I'm dropping out of the movie."
yeah.
Interesting sequence of events, and not to speak for Doug on the pod, but Doug texted us about this at some
Doug's
point the
phoning
other
in
day,
this opinion.
and I think what he said was pretty true. Which is, I think the first thing that's like just worth saying up front is like Yeah, good call. You know, it's like, sure, like I do think it's just like, yeah, good on you to realize that like this isn't the role for you. Like, yeah, and like you shouldn't be
Mhm.
taking this role from somebody else who probably should be portraying the character instead. Good realization. Doug kind of mentioned like she needs to get off the internet a little bit, and
Yeah.
I think both things. I think both things can be true. You know what I mean? I think it could be both true that it's like, yeah, good on you to like let a person who is deserving and fits the character more get
Yeah.
that role instead. But at the same time, just like chill on the social media for a little bit. You know, it's like maybe you don't need to be
Sure.
like listening to like all the opinions of like everybody on, Twitter
Yeah.
or whatever. Like it's like just, I because she already like has dealt with a lot of very
Mhm.
annoying, dumb controversy just not that long before this was announced.
Mhm.
And so yeah, like probably just like big PR move where it's like you don't want to recover from the controversy by stirring more controversy. So like it's better to just avoid it. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like, yeah, like annoying people on the internet don't need to dictate your life. That sounds stupid because it's like obviously this is not like a non-issue. I'm not, like obviously it matters that
Yeah.
a white woman is taking a role from somebody, or even in Jacob Elordi's case, right? Like a white man is taking a role from somebody who shouldn't be, white.
Mhm.
Of course, that also has a lot to do with Emerald Fennel. Based on, we're not going to talk about that in the news, but
Right.
her comments about that whole thing were like not the best comments that somebody could have made in that situation. Regardless, I think the point still stands, which is like, yeah, I don't know, like you need to just like maybe not be paying too much attention to what people are saying about you on the internet, because if you were doing that, like to dictate all of your press moves and like all of your
Sure.
decisions as an actor, like you'd be all over the place, and it's like I think the best thing to do after having the kind of controversy that she had earlier is to just fucking detox for a bit, like maybe just take a break from the internet.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have
I
anything to add,
thought what
but
was interesting, what I read was, like, she originally auditioned for a different role, and
oh,
then they were
okay.
like, "What if you did this role?" And she was like,
Right.
"Sure." And then that's why she didn't know. That's what at least I read was, like, she auditioned, she, like, was like, "Oh, this is the role I'm gonna play," which is, like, a more fitting role, and she was like, "This is what I'm gonna go for." And then they were like, "What if you are in the movie, but it's a different role?" And she was like, "Sure, this sounds fun. I want to do it. I'll do a different role if you want me for a different role." Um, which is what I read. And I feel like it's just weird from the team um that's involved. And definitely I feel like it, of course you can always be more aware of what you're signing on to, but it's like, I feel like that there's a little more blame on the people, like, casting and stuff like that
Yeah.
there, especially because of that, like, unique situation where they're like, "You wanna do this role instead?" Without telling, well, I mean, I'm sure they told her, I don't know. It's tough to know
I don't know.
entirely.
I'd also be curious
Um,
to like know whether or not she read the script, and if she did, like how much of the script includes that, because it's like it is
right.
not your job as an actor to read the book that the movie is based on. It is your
Sure.
job to read the script, right? But it's like you don't have to read the
Right.
book. Like
I mean, yeah,
you
depend
can,
I
and I'm
mean,
sure it'll help your
there's
performance,
it's
but like, you know.
sure. Yeah, it's
And this is like
I but
before they even started doing anything, right? Like this is just like signing on to the movie. So it's like, I don't know.
right, but I do agree. I think it's fine that, like, she was aware that people were upset. I do think, like, maybe, like, in terms of, like, we're talking about, like, the detoxing the internet, like, the public, like, posting on her Instagram story about it is kinda
It's
like
like a
where it's
fun,
like,
yeah.
if she just dropped out of the movie because, like, it was like, okay, she dropped out of the movie because, whatever. Like, I think there's, like, maybe even, like, there's, like, a little statement made or whatever, but, like, I
Right.
don't know, like, that's pretty much it. Like, I think
That's what I mean. I'm like, it's just like a funny little like move where I'm like, yes, it's a good thing that you did that. It's like funny the way that it's like being handled slash
yeah.
presented. And I think a lot of that for me comes off the back of like her dealing with bad press over something that was like totally undeserving. And that's
Yeah.
like, that's kind of my annoyance. It's like, yeah, maybe the internet's a little bit right here, but it's like, gosh, you guys are wrong very often, you know? And it's like, maybe you
Yeah.
don't need to like annoy this actress who, by all accounts, is just like a good, chill person as far
Yeah.
as we know,
Well,
you
it's
know?
like
Like, it's
she's
like,
just like,
you
I
know,
mean,
when she does something
when
actually
you're
wrong, then that could be the time to
and
get up in
when you're
arms
an
over it.
actor and you're I mean, she's auditioning for things and, like, it's like you're just taking the jobs you can get, where it's like, "Okay, she auditioned for this movie sounds good. It's a job that pays her," right? It's like it's
Right.
a job, so when it's like, she went for a job, she got a job. Whoops.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, it's tough, and I know and I agree, like, I think it makes sense, I think I think it's a good call that she dropped out, but
Yeah.
I
It's also like you're talking about a
it's
pretty big role. Like, it's like this is Sean Durkin
that's
coming
what I'm
off of The
saying, where it's
Iron
like,
Claw with like other big
she's
actors
going there and
involved
be
in the
like, "Oh,
project. Like, it's like
it's
this
just"
should
you know
just
what I'm
be a
s
good movie or big
yes,
movie.
and
Sorry.
I think a lot of times, like, actors are just like, everyone's trying to get a job. Everyone's really trying to get a
Yeah.
job, and, you often I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know. What do I know, right?
What do we know?
What do I
Here's an exciting little piece of news. Uh, Mia Threepleton joins Damien Chazelle's next film, the film that we've talked about a lot with Cillian Murphy, Daniel Craig, Michelle Williams joining the cast. Mia Threepleton, listeners of the pod will know for breaking out recently in The Phoenician Scheme.
Yes.
Um, and so pretty good jump there for like a for what is currently a short career, you know, to go from making a Wes Anderson movie, getting your moment in the spotlight and then making a Damien Chazelle movie after.
Yeah, that
Good
sounds
for me at three. That's not bad for somebody who hasn't really done a lot of work.
it's not bad.
I thought that was pretty exciting. Yeah, not like a ton to add there, but the cast is starting to stack up, and I'm liking the names that I'm seeing. So
Yeah, no. What I wonder what
um,
she's doing in the jail.
yeah, I'm not sure how much of the movie is gonna be in the jail. I don't know. I'm like, there's no way the whole movie is in the jail. Maybe it is. I don't know,
Why
but
not? Why not?
uh here's a kind of weird piece of news. I was actually also talking about this piece of news last night, though I don't know if you and I talked about it, but
Really?
the the Dirty Dancing sequel is officially moving forward with
We did
Jennifer
not
Grey
talk about this.
reprising her role. Yeah, I guess we talked about it last night because Dirty Dancing is like my girlfriend's favorite movie,
Okay.
and so when I brought up that they were making a sequel, she was not happy, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't know that
Think
anybody's
anyone yeah,
happy
right,
about this,
right.
right? I'm like, I don't really know that anybody needs this movie. Not to mention one of the two leads of the movie is literally not alive anymore.
Mhm.
Um, but just in addition, I'm like, I don't know, man. I listen, I watched Dirty Dancing for the first time this past year, I guess, or whatever. I don't know when it was, but I thought that movie was a blast. Probably could leave it alone. Probably don't. It's one of those, and it's weird because I'm saying that, and then they released the Devil Wears Prada 2 trailer tonight, and I was
Right,
like,
right,
I'm
right.
eating it up. I'm eating it
Yeah.
up. Um, yeah. Anyway, I don't really see a world in which this is a good movie or one that like gets more than
What if it's,
12
like,
people excited.
amazing?
Yeah. What if it is? I don't
Dude,
know.
what if that's what we gotta that's the mindset we gotta be taking with
Yeah.
these things. It's like, what if
I
the
to,
Possession
you know what's
remake
funny is
and the
you say
Dirty
that,
Dancing remake,
but
what if they're,
like
like, fucking amazing, bro?
But, like, fully genuinely, like, that has kind of been my attitude on this podcast for 150 episodes, and every time I do it, you guys are like, "Fucking no, no, it's of course it's gonna what are you saying? It's gonna be awful," you know, and I
Yeah.
try to be the guy where I'm like, "Hey, guys, like, maybe this sounds kinda fun," you know, and you guys are like, "No, you fucking idiot." So, I'm glad you're saying this now.
Well,
I
we're
want you to
normally
remember you
right,
saying this
so, like,
for all of the episodes in the future, you know, I want you to remember that you had
I'm
this
not
moment.
gonna remember a thing that happens on this podcast.
Okay. Last piece of news here before we wrap up. And this is a pretty significant one. Mia Goth and Andrew Scott will lead Justine Trier's next psychological thriller, Fonda. Justine Trier, best known
I
for
didn't
directing
oh,
Anatomy of
wow.
a Fall. Some other people in the cast include Frank Delane, Nathan Stewart Jarrett, and Allison Janney. Uh, Pretty sweet. I read in this report as well that Mia Goth originally was not supposed to be playing the lead, and then Justine Triet liked her so much that she was like, actually, Mia Goth really impressed me, and was given the lead role. So
Wow.
um that's even more interesting. And Andrew Scott, of course, like terrific. I really liked Anatomy of a Fall. I'm very eagerly anticipating what she does next, and I didn't think that it was gonna like be quite at this like level of talent. You know, I don't know. I kind of assumed it would be like an Anatomy of a Fall sized budget for the next one, but that's the Oscar push. The movie was a big deal in award season. She definitely got a lot of attention,
Yeah.
and now she gets two pretty big names to lead the
Two
film.
pretty what is it?
Uh,
Two pretty best friends. Remember that? Wow.
yeah, wow, yeah, yeah,
Fuck.
wow. I don't think that has to do with this at all. Did you see Anatomy of a Fall? I don't remember.
No.
Okay, I don't know how much. Well, maybe you'd like it, but I know at the time you said you weren't very interested in watching it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like
But
6 years ago.
it wasn't. But but I liked the movie, and I love Andrew Scott and Mia Goth. I like a good amount.
Mhm.
Very interested to see what the deal
I
with
like
this one
Frank.
is. Frank Delane, yeah, yeah. I like
Yeah,
Allison Janney. He's great.
right.
I don't know that I'm familiar with Nathan Stewart Jarrett's work, but I'm sure he's
Sure
great
he's
too.
sure he
Uh,
makes a good pizza pie.
what?
I'm sure he's Ooh.
Isn't Nathan's a hot dog brand?
Yeah, that's irrelevant to the conversation that I was having with myself.
What does pizza have to do with it?
I heard I just what I heard. I don't
Okay. We're gonna wrap up there, guys. It's midnight at the time that we're recording this, if that is any context for the listener, as to
I
what
think
the
I've been
vibe
up
has
for
been for the past
72
2
hours.
hours. Next week, episode 153, we're not entirely sure what we're gonna be talking about, but we've got some possibilities, some rumblings. Maybe we'll do a little bit of Oscars catch up and talk about The Secret Agent. If that's something people are interested in, they could comment below.
But if you don't want
But
that, don't say no. Say
no, I mean, I want
just,
to. I want
like,
to talk.
really, like, aggressively, like, let us know what you want.
Yeah, but most likely we'll probably do The Secret Agent, or some other
What do
form
you
of
want me
like
to say?
movie that we didn't get to cover that was a big deal this year, something like that. Uh, Regardless, we'll see you later. Goodbye.